Hi, how'd it go? They did what? You did? I can't take any credit for that. I'm just so proud of you. You know, this is what life looks like when you're tapped into your authenticity and equally aligned with your intuition. Remember, Mom always taught us to trust our guts. You're listening to Hey Big Sister with me, Meg. There's a different way to run your life and your business. One that allows you to truly connect with people on a human level. No more icky sales, no more comparisonitis, just you taking mindful, intentional, messy action to create success that you can be proud of. Let this episode be your guide. For the next few minutes, open your mind to new possibilities. And don't forget to pour me a little grace. I'm just like you, except I picked up the mic and started talking about all the things that go on in both of our heads. If this episode hits home for you, it would mean the world to me to have you leave the podcast a 5-star rating and written review. Also, could you do me a favor and text the link to this episode onto 3 of your best friends? You know, I'm a real human behind this mic, and I actually want to connect with you. Click the show notes below to connect with me on social media. I would love if you sent me a DM with your takeaway from this episode. You are family now. Here we go. Hello, I am so excited to be back and to talk about intuition today. So, you're going to hear a lot about intuition on this podcast. There's probably going to be a lot more episodes that will cover it. I want to talk about how we use our intuition in our life and in our business, how we can grow it, and all things. So, if any questions come up throughout this episode, please feel free to connect with me on social media or send me an email. Intuition has always been a huge part of my life, and I have my mom to thank for that because she was always teaching us to listen to our gut. So it's something that I was pretty tuned into since I was a little kid. But as my life has changed and unfolded, I have gotten even more in touch with it. And I've actually taken trainings and courses to grow my connection to my intuition, my connection to energy work, and all of those things. I'm a trained Reiki master, and I've also done different energy trainings and clairvoyance trainings, mediumship, all of those things. So as you kind of delve into that world, your intuition usually strengthens and grows even more. So in today's episode, I want to talk more about what intuition is, how to connect with it more, and why it is so valuable in your business. I truly believe that our intuitive voice is a gold mine, but we live in a society that has trained us to listen to everything that's outside of us. We are constantly bombarded by marketing and listening to, many of us grew up going to the regular school system, and those things teach us to always listen to authority, and which, yes, we need in our society, but we tend to give our power away eventually and listen to the people around us instead and look to them for the answers. No one sits down and teaches us to go within and listen to our intuitive voice or our heart, or however you describe it. So that's what I do. I try to teach my clients how to get back to that intuitive voice. And the thing is that it's completely possible. It is like a muscle. So one little thing that I like to touch upon before really diving into this topic is that many of us have withstood some amount of trauma throughout our lives. And because of that, we have either gotten really in touch with our intuitive voice, or we kind of shut it off in some capacity. But the thing is that is okay. And if you are feeling right now like, I have no intuitive voice, I can't hear it, I don't know what it would feel like or sound like, that is a totally okay place to be. It's a perfect place to start, and you can start building that connection back. And sometimes that might mean starting in a place like therapy, starting in a place where you can assess and bring some healing to the different things that have happened in your life so that your nervous system and your body feels calm enough to access that intuition and that intuitive voice so that you can build that self-trust back to say, this voice is here for a reason and I can trust it. Many people get confused and have a little bit of mistrust with their intuition because they don't know how to decipher whether or not their intuition is anxiety or it's intuition. So the way that I like to kind of describe it to people is that for me, intuition comes in a flash. It's like a knowing, it's a quick kind of like, oh, take this road home, or connect with this person. And anxiety is more of like a spiral. So for me, anxiety will start with one thought and then it will spiral into something else and kind of catastrophize a situation. So when that happens, I usually can say like, no, this isn't my truth. This isn't the ultimate truth. This is anxiety. And what can I do in order to ground myself, calm myself so that I can actually hear my intuitive voice? So over the years of diving into this all more and learning more about it, I realized that I had to really calm my nervous system in order to hear my intuition. So that looked like doing healing practices like Reiki, meditation, sound healing, different things that were able to get me into a place where I wasn't always in fight or flight. And when I am in fight or flight, or when I'm feeling really, really stressed, it is hard for me to hear that voice. So I need to get to a place where my body feels calm, and then I can actually have physical quiet around me so that I can breathe and tune in and ask questions and get responses from my intuition. So let's talk about when I say I hear it, because I don't actually hear my intuition with my ears. I don't hear a voice or anything like that. I feel it in my body. It's kind of a knowing. It's like that self conversation that happens in your head. I can, when I slow down and ask a question or try to connect with my intuition, I can feel a yes or a no or my answer kind of in my heart space or in my gut. And it comes in as like that knowing. So, kind of like when you run into somebody or when you run into a place and you're like, I know I've been here before. Like you have this knowing in your body. Um, and that is something that takes practice because, again, we are a society that wants things very clearly laid out for us. We want this big neon sign that says, this is your intuition, this is what you should be feeling, or this is the answer. And your intuition is more like a whisper usually. And if you ignore it, it can sometimes get to a loud scream and you might feel it it might show up somatically in your body. I am a very energetic person. That's how I make a lot of my decisions in life. That's how I run my life and my business. So when I'm not listening to my intuition, my body will show it. I will get sick. I will get super tired. So over time, I've had to learn that that is also how my intuition is speaking to me. So for you, it might be the same. You might see you have a gut feeling on something that you keep ignoring, and then your actual physical health gets impacted. So after going through that a bunch of times, I finally said, no more. Like, I'm going to listen much earlier so that my physical body is not impacted. And the way that I started doing that more and more was like having conversations with the people around me, having conversations with my husband and saying, my husband's an engineer, so he doesn't necessarily lean on intuition first. He's more logical. So we've had to have conversations throughout the years of, this might not make logical sense, but I intuitively know that this is the way that we have to go. So things like selling our house. When we lived in our previous house, we got to a point where I was like, yep, it is time to go. We have to go. I I intuitively knew we were supported and it was going to happen. And I told one of my neighbors, his brother asked to come and see it, and we sold it within that week because I was taking aligned action from the intuitive nudges that I was getting. Very similar to my business. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I didn't know how I was going to necessarily do it, but I just started taking that action because from the feelings, the intuition, the intuitive voice that I was receiving, I took action and had success. So yes, that sounds very simple when I kind of break it down like that. There's a lot more involved, and growing your intuition is a journey, and it does require practice and commitment. Like, I have actually made a lot of investment in learning how to listen to my intuition, and whether that is being in classes or doing different healing modalities in order to strengthen it and calm my physical body. So there are many different ways to go. And if you're listening to this and you're saying, like, I want to do that, just take a little moment today and say, I want to grow my intuition. I want to feel more connected. Like, show me the way. I believe that if you are connected to your higher self and you ask questions and the opportunity is going to present itself, right? So, like, after you do that, you're going to then see a book, or you're going to see a class pop up. Take it, take aligned action, buy that book or borrow it from the library, or do whatever you might have to listen to that voice. Because energetically, the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in, when you ask, you're going to be presented with options too. And then it takes, our logical earthly body to make the decision and move from there. So, like I said, like, you're going to hear a lot about intuition on this podcast. It is literally how I run everything in my life and business. And as my business is getting older, I have been in the place where I've moved away from intuitive decisions to kind of make decisions in more of a strategic way. And that didn't necessarily work the way that I had hoped it to work. So it kind of proved to me that I do need strategy. I have a lot of knowledge in strategy, especially around marketing and social media, but I was always making my business decisions from an intuitive place. I wasn't following anybody's plan. I wasn't following anybody's like launch outline, anything like that. I kind of just made decisions from what felt really good energetically, and that worked. But you don't see a lot of that in business, or at least I was not seeing a lot of that in business. And it made me feel like, if other people aren't doing it, then I need to try their way, and maybe that I will scale more quickly, or I'll have more success, X, Y, and Z, whatever the things were that were popping up. And so I tried that, and I did a few different programs that were more strategic based. And while I learned great information, and I really value that because I can bring that to my clients, some people who might be needing to rely more on that strategy, especially in the beginning of their business. But ultimately, I came back to, no, this business needs to always run from intuition. So if you know anything about human design, I'm a manifester, and I'm not like super proficient in human design. But from what I understand is that manifestors are leaders and innovators, and they have to inform people what they're doing, but like they're going to be the first ones, or they're going to do things differently. And that doesn't always feel good. It doesn't always feel good to be the one that is doing things differently. But it does create more sustainability because you're doing something that feels aligned with your truth and your energy. So that is at the core of my goal and my commitment to myself and my business, is that that's how I'm always going to make decisions. And because of that, I have realized that there's a lot of other entrepreneurs out there who want to do that too, but we're just not really having those conversations, because energetics and intuition is harder to sell, right? Like, we are taught in marketing and sales that you need to showcase a transformation. People have to be really clear and understand what you are selling. Your copy has to be a certain way in order to convince people to buy your program. And that's not how I operate. So it's really a place of acceptance and learning to say, okay, if I don't operate that way, there's probably other people out there that don't operate that way. And it's okay to kind of be a trailblazer. It's okay to do things differently, do business differently. When I sold my first program, I didn't have a web page. I was selling an idea and an energy, and people bought it, and people had an amazing experience. We had such a beautiful group of people come together because I really trusted that that was what needed to be out in the world at that time, and I trusted that I was going to call the right people in, because intuitively I took action from what the messages that were coming up for me from my journaling practice, my meditation. So it didn't look like a typical launch, or it didn't look like a typical way that other people sell, but yet I still made 5 figures. So that is just that social proof to come back to, that you can do things differently. And if you are listening to a lot of business podcasts, or you're in some different groups or trainings or coaching programs or masterminds, and people are telling you this is the way you launch, you follow X, Y, and Z, and it feels really uncomfortable to you, like, that's okay. Show up, take what resonates with you, and then leave the rest. And I'm going to promise that on this podcast, in my communities, I am going to teach you how to sell and market from an intuitive place. I am so committed to figuring out a way to continue to put it into words so that we can all understand how you can, grow and scale your business in a way that is so you. It's not, some coach or guru their way, and it's not like a boxed up kind of method of doing business. It's going to be your way, and that way it's going to feel really, really true to you. And I think that that's how we create sustainability in this business. So we see a lot of people that start businesses with the hope of making a ton of money, because that's what we see online all the time, and they follow somebody else's program and they do it and they make a lot of money, but it doesn't feel sustainable because you're either hustling so hard, or you're working, so many different hours. I don't think that it has to be that way. I think that there's another way to do it. So I would love to hear back from you if you have any questions, around this piece, around intuition and business. And I am just going to continue to show up and kind of showcase how I do it through my intuition on my social media. I do share a lot about this on TikTok right now, because I think that there's so much potential there. There's so much potential for your business, and these are skills that are going to also be able to move into your life as well. So if you're getting intuitive hits to, move, like we talked about, or to shift your career, or to whatever it might be, I want to also show you how to do that. So on an upcoming episode, we're going to talk more about the practices that I use to really solidify that connection to my intuition and make space for the messages to come through. So I look forward to bringing that to you. Thank you so much for showing up again today. I hope that this was insightful and kind of gave you social proof and permission to say, that feels right to me. Leading my business, leading my career, whatever it might be, from this place of intuition is possible for me too. So I hope to see you next week. Thank you so much for being part of the family here, and I will talk to you soon. Before you go, do me a favor and leave a 5-star rating and written review. The more we connect, the more the world is connected. As I love to say to all of my groups and my clients, rising tides lift all boats. See you next week.